right, guys. This is going to be hopefully very short. I actually don't have enough time because at 11 tonight, so that's in about 35 minutes, I'm going to be on the Hard News Network to talk about a few articles I've written about the BDS bills that are before some of the state legislatures, Congress, maybe some of the governors, and in general, a number of the BDS issues. Now, it's going to be a little more of a hostile audience to me. I've written for the hard bastard, but a lot of his audience probably wouldn't be sympathetic to myself or anyone who espouses my point of view. But, I appreciate his letting me be on his show. And I think he has a good show, despite all of the issues of, despite all of the madness in this world, I think he does a good job. And I think I'll do a good job too. So, of course, Happy New Year for those of you that haven't seen any of the shows since the beginning of the year. For those of you that tuned in yesterday to Ad Hominem Thunderdome, I hope you enjoyed watching me drunkenly destroy a couple of my friends who, I think afterward everybody wanted to do another stream, but we're going in the future, so we'll see what happens again because they want to talk about Syria, which is fine. And I went back to work today and had a long ass day, and I just got back from having about an hour's rest. So we're going to talk about a couple topics. So if you guys are tuning into this channel and you might be people who are, I don't know, Trump fans or libertarians or something, or you believe in limited government, or you're against the deep state, or you're against the mainstream media, you know that if Donald Trump does something that could be self-destructive, it's probably a good idea that you just, even though the rest of the media might be attacking him, sometimes there are things he does that I think you have to look at and say, this is just the wrong thing to do. And when he today claimed that James Mattis, his defense secretary, had essentially been fired. And what's he done for me? That was the quote. And I did hear the audio. We can actually listen to the audio if you want to really go into it.
Done for me. How has he done in Afghanistan? Mattis was so thrilled. But what's he done for me? How has he done in Afghanistan? Not too good. Not too good. I'm not happy with what he's done in Afghanistan, and I shouldn't be happy. But he was very happy. He was very thankful when I got him $700 billion, and then the following year, $716 billion. So, I wish him well. I hope he does well. But as you know, President Obama fired him, and essentially so did I. I want results. But
okay, so look, you can talk about whether it was factual what he said. You can talk about whether he might have actually been right in the reasons for rushing Mattis out the door. Of course, some outlets are saying, well, it's a lie because Mattis resigned. The point that Trump was making was that Mattis had planned to leave the Defense Department apparently at the end of February, and Trump said, well, you don't have to wait till February. You can leave now if you want. So he was saying basically he didn't wait for Mattis to walk out the door. He said, you can walk out the door now because I need somebody here that I can depend on, essentially. But it doesn't matter to me because the way he expressed this, whether it's justified in kicking Mattis out or that Mattis did not get the results in Afghanistan, James Mattis was, in my opinion, one of the better Trump cabinet picks. Even if it's not an ideal cabinet pick, even if I disagree with James Mattis as far as the Syria pullout, and I'm partially in favor of the Afghanistan pullout. I wouldn't say that I'm 100% behind either one, but I think that it's the right direction and that Donald Trump has the right course of momentum in this case, in both cases. We can't continue to have these foreign commitments. But I'm not one of these people to judge people based on grace and style, but this was definitely some sort of weird freak out, and it's unnecessary. And the way I'd say is that Donald Trump, what I perceive happening here is that he considers himself basically to be like the manager of a Major League Baseball team. He considers himself basically to be like, I used to read a lot of baseball books back in the day. Billy Martin, Billy Martin all the time would Reggie Jackson is just another player, just like everybody else. But the way that I look at, so that's the way I think he thinks of himself in his head. Like he's holding these egos in check. But in reality, I think that he's behaving more like Axl Rose when he does something like this. James Mattis can leave, and it's good for Trump to get a defense secretary that would be able to implement the vision that would be able to fulfill those withdrawals from the Middle East. But you don't have to aggravate it. And this was, in my opinion, a bad moment from him. No matter what, you don't describe somebody like James Mattis as somebody what he's done. What's he done for me? James Mattis has done a lot for Americans, and I think eventually, we might see him turn further against Trump anyway. So it doesn't really matter. But you don't have to basically twist the knife over a relationship gone sour, just like Axl Rose would have done. So I think he's absolutely wrong on this. How are we holding up here? We have TM Ryder and Chris. So thanks for tuning in. Once again, I'm going to be on Hard News Network later. The link is in the chat. So it's about 30 minutes from now. I'm going to be on their show. I don't think I'm going to mirror their show, but I have done it before. In any case, the other big blunder was Mitt Romney. And this is the archive from the Washington Post. I'll put the archive in the description. I'll put it in the chat. Screw the description. I'll put it in the chat. So this is his op-ed. So you don't even have to give clicks to the Washington Post. So let's read through this. He says the Trump presidency made a deep descent in December. The departures of Defense Secretary Jim Mattis and White House Chief of Staff John F. Kelly, the appointment of senior persons of lesser experience, and abandonment of allies who fight beside us, and the president's thoughtless claim that America has long been a sucker in world affairs all define his presidency down. It is well known that Donald Trump was not my choice for the Republican presidential nomination. After he became the nominee, I hoped his campaign would refrain from resentment and name-calling. It did not. When he won the election, I hoped he would rise to the occasion. His early appointments of Rex Tillerson, Jeff Sessions, Nikki Haley, Gary Cohn, H.R. McMaster, Kelly, and Mattis were encouraging. But on balance, his conduct over the past 2 years, particularly his actions this month, is evidence that the president has not risen to the mantle of the office. It is not that all of the president's... So we'll have to go through those people, by the way, as after the article, because it shows just where the motivations are coming from with Mitt Romney. It is not that all of the president's policies have been misguided. He was right to align U.S. corporate taxes with those of global competitors, to strip out excessive regulations, to crack down on China's unfair trade practices, to reform criminal justice, and to appoint conservative judges. These are policies mainstream Republicans have promoted for years, but policies and appointments are only a part of a presidency. To a great degree, a presidency shapes the public character of the nation. A president should unite us and inspire us to follow, quote, our better angels. A president should demonstrate the essential qualities of honesty and integrity and elevate the national discourse with comedy and comedy with a T, by the way, and mutual respect. As a nation, we have been blessed with presidents who have called on the greatness of the American spirit. With a nation so divided, resentful, and angry, presidential leadership and qualities of character is indispensable, and it is in this province where the incumbent shortfall has been most glaring. The world is also watching. America has long been looked to for leadership. Our economic and military strength was part of that, of course, but our enduring commitment to principled conduct in foreign relations and to the rights of all people to freedom and equal justice was even more esteemed. Trump's words and actions have caused dismay around the world. In a 2016 Pew Research Center poll, 84% of people in Germany, Britain, France, Canada, and Sweden believed the American president would do the right thing in world affairs. 1 year later, that number had fallen to 16%. So all of this is very revealing, not because of what he's saying, but because of the irony of what's really happening. This comes at a very unfortunate time. Several allies in Europe are experiencing political upheaval. Several former Soviet ally states are rethinking their commitment to democracy. Some Asian nations, such as the Philippines, lean increasingly toward China, which advances to rival our economy and our military. The alternative to U.S. world leadership offered by China and Russia is autocratic, corrupt, and brutal. The world needs American leadership, and it is in America's interest to provide it. A world led by authoritarian regimes is a world and an America with less prosperity, less freedom, less peace. To reassume our leadership in world politics, we must repair failings in our politics at home. That project begins, of course, with the highest office once again acting to inspire and unite us. It includes political parties promoting policies that strengthen us rather than promote tribalism by exploiting fear and resentment. Our leaders must defend our vital institutions despite their inevitable failings. A free press, the rule of law, strong churches, and responsible corporations and unions. We must repair our fiscal foundation, setting a course to a balanced budget. We must attract the best talent to America's service and the best innovators to America's economy. America is strongest when our arms are linked with the other nations. We want a unified and strong Europe, not a disintegrating union. We want stable relationships with the nations of Asia that strengthen our mutual security and prosperity. I look forward to working on these priorities with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and other senators. Furthermore, I will act as I would with any president in or out of my party. I will support policies that I believe are in the best interest of the country and my state and oppose those that are not. I do not intend to comment on every tweet or fault, but I will speak out against significant statements or actions that are divisive, racist, sexist, anti-immigrant, dishonest, or destructive to democratic institutions. I remain optimistic about our future in an innovation age. Americans excel. More importantly, noble instincts live in the hearts of Americans. The people of this great land will eschew the politics of anger and fear if they are summoned to the responsibility by leaders in home. If they are summoned into the responsibility by leaders in homes, in churches, in schools, in businesses, in government, who raise our sights and respect the dignity of every child of God, the ideal that is the essence of America. So this is essentially, this is why Mitt Romney never became president. And I'll have to confess here, the first person I ever voted for an election for president was Mitt Romney. And walking out of the voting booth that day, I remember wanting to puke because the guy is basically a fraud in every sense of the word. He is the architect of the Obama type healthcare plan. Romney Care was before Obamacare. That was the model that was based on. And one of the reasons I voted in 2016, despite the fact that I wasn't a huge fan of Trump at the time, was because of Obamacare. And thanks to Donald Trump, and not thanks to Mitt Romney, Obamacare's worst elements, which are, of course, the individual mandate, is gone. Okay, so Mitt Romney can basically go fuck himself, as far as I'm concerned. The reason I ended up voting at all in 2016 is because of a policy that he initiated in his state when he was governor, Romney Care. So I don't need any lessons from Mitt Romney on what motivates Americans to vote. Okay, if I would have taken back any vote, it wouldn't have been in 2016. It would have been in 2012 when I voted for him. The other thing is that he talked about encouraging appointments of Rex Tillerson, Jeff Sessions, Nikki Haley, Gary Cohn, H.R. McMaster, and then John Kelly and James Mattis. So let's look at some of those people. Rex Tillerson, if you look at what he accomplished as Secretary of State, was an utter failure. And he never showed. He was probably the biggest mistake. To this day, I think it was the biggest mistake, arguably with the next person, Jeff Sessions, in terms of Donald Trump appointments. And Rex Tillerson, I think, will probably be, in my opinion, one of the biggest mistakes that Trump ever made, because the man was basically a wet blanket for the first year of his presidency. And much could have been accomplished in that time that wasn't accomplished because we had this bumbling idiot who was put in the position of Secretary of State because he'd had contacts with foreign leaders as basically the CEO of a large corporation. He was essentially the same as Robert McNamara, who was the defense secretary during the Vietnam War, only even less effective because McNamara at least had a philosophy that he put forward. Rex Tillerson was kind of like, it was just a waste of time. Jeff Sessions, another failure apart from some progress on immigration policy. Jeff Sessions never took the reins and reformed our corrupted justice system. Starting with, first of all, he focused on the drug war, which nobody thinks is a priority apart from perhaps the opioid crisis. But he wasn't. He was focusing on marijuana and on immigration. I think he tried his best, and then then his worst actions were recusing himself from the Russia investigation and basically soft shoeing around the FBI. So yeah, Jeff Sessions was a horrible pick in retrospect, but maybe we couldn't have known it. Okay, maybe we would have never known that Jeff Sessions was so bad until he became Attorney General. Nikki Haley, I guess, Nikki Haley was an ambassador. Okay, it's not that important of a position. There are a lot of people who are neoconservatives or who are part of the AIPAC crowd who sing her praises literally for everything she does. All she does is she reads from sheets of paper statements about certain things, and that's it. I'm not saying she's a bad person. I'm saying that it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. People should just cool their jets about her. It's really not that important. Okay, and then you have Gary Cohn and H.R. McMaster. Cohn was essential for the tax reform, but apart from that, so what? And he ended up leaving. And H.R. McMaster was a failure. H.R. McMaster, if he would have stayed in office, who knows if the North Korea breakthrough ever happens? He was one of the people hindering it. It's insane to consider that John Bolton is the person who helped the North Korea breakthrough happen. And Mitt Romney thinks that H.R. McMaster. What did H.R. McMaster accomplish? It's literally, he's just name dropping here, and you can see that all the policies that he supported that are Trump associated are ones that are favorable to large corporations, because that's who Mitt Romney is a representative of. Mitt Romney, I would say, is one of the biggest disgraces that we've had in politics. And he's talking about comity and all these other principles that, all these other, I would say, character traits that he thinks are essential for an American president. We've had shitty presidents for the past 20 plus years. We had Bush, we had Obama, we had Clinton. Clinton was better than Bush and Obama, even though he was much more corrupt than both of them. But he was better at getting things done, I'm not going to say that I like President Clinton. I just say he's better. I think President Clinton's a piece of crap. But, if you're looking at all these qualities that Mitt Romney sees in a successful president, he never complained about that type of behavior among any of those three, or George H.W. Bush. Because the fact is that he would rather have somebody who's leading the country, who's kind of a failure, but somebody you could get along with, than somebody that can bring the country forward and change things that are festering problems. And that's really what I read into this bizarre op-ed. And I saw Tom Binn's video about this, and he said a lot of valid points about this. Mitt Romney, when he needed basically Trump support in order to win in the Senate primary in Utah, I believe that Trump ended up throwing him a bone, and he did. And now suddenly, he he doesn't live by the norms of a regular president. Well, Mitt Romney will never live by the norms of any type of president, because he'll never be one, God willing. If there's anything we can do to keep America great. Okay, I don't care if you're a Trump supporter. I don't care if you're not a Trump supporter. Do whatever you can to prevent him from getting any more power, because unfortunately, the people of Utah have handed him one of 100 Senate seats that we have. So that's about it. Please, again, check out at about 15 more minutes. So 11 Eastern time, I'm going to be on The Hard Bastard, and I hope to see you there.